Jayatang Suratau Pangang Mama Mandar Mate Gati Matsarvasya Padam Bhojo Radha Madana Vindhyaranna kalpa pramadha Srimad Ratna Dara Singhasanastho Sri Radha Sri Govinda Deva Sriman Rasarasarambi Vamsi Vata Tata Sitaham Karsan Bhenu Sanai Gopi Gopi Natha Sriyesuram Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vikhavan Sute Devi Pranamani Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hello, everyone.
Dear buddies, please bear with me, except on humble basis, since I'm having some computer issues. But I will, you are all on there. I can see you're all on there, but I have to share. And that's going to take me a little bit of working to do that. So I'll come on with the verse pretty soon and the sound too. Okay. Mm. Krishna, 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 so H. And this Krishna, to Kirtan. Here we go. Check this out. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Okay, good. Now, Bhagavatam 2, 3, 1. Okay. Now I can hear the sound, but it's breaking. Yeah, I've actually not. Okay, I'll share sound again. Can you hear the sound clearly now?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Okay, okay. Now I can hear. Okay. Okay, so we probably will start in a few minutes. Well, not a few minutes, in a minute. All right, thank you very much for hanging in there for this. Yeah, I got knocked out of the internet, and that's what started this whole thing. Okay. Okay, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 2, Chapter 3, and we're beginning the chapter, Text 1. So without further ado, we'll just start the class. I apologize if you've come in or if you were in earlier, you realize that we had some computer glitches, but now by the Lord's grace, it's been fixed. So we can start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihari Gopi Jalaballabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Javallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Free Vajakacharya Stotara Satasishimad. His Divine Grace Ishi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Pravishna Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Free Vajakacharya Stotara Satasishimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Kuti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. इसका founder charge Shri Prabhupada की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Lord of Sri Guru and Gauranga God Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tere Swami Nami Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Sudha Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tere Narayana Namaskritya Narunchevam Narotamam Devim Sarasati Vyasam Tato Jayam Vijirayat Nashya Prayesva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 1. Shri Shukovacha Evam Itan Nigaditam Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama Nenam Yan Riyamananam Manushesu Manisinam Shri Shukovacha Evam Etan Nigatinam Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama Nenam Yan Riyamananam Manushesu Manishinam Shri Shukovacha Evam etan nigatinam Prishtavan yadvavan mama Renam Yanriana Mananam Manushes Manushesu Manishinam. Hare Krishna.
Shri Shuka Vacha Evameta Nigaditam Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama Nirnam Yan Mriyamanana Manusyeshu Manishinam.
Jai. Anyone else?
Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam etan nigatitam Prashtavan Yad Bhavan Mama Nranam Yan Nriyamananam Manusyeshu Manishinam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right, we'll do word for word now. Shri Shikovacha. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Evam, so, etat, all these, Nigatinam, answered, Prishtavan, as you inquired, Yat, what? Bhavan, your good self, Mama, unto me, Nenam, of the human being, Yat, one, Niyamananam, on the threshold of death, Manusheshu, amongst the human being, Manishinam, of the intelligent men. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Maharaj Pariksit, as you have inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who was on the threshold of death, so I have answered you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In human society all over the world, there are millions and billions of men and women, and almost all of them are less intelligent because they have very little knowledge of spirit soul. Almost all of them have a wrong conception of life, for they identify themselves with the gross and subtle material bodies, which they are not, in fact. They may be situated in different high and low positions in the estimation of human society, but one should know definitely that unless one inquires about his own self beyond the body and the mind, all his activities in human life are total failures. Therefore, out of thousands and thousands of men, one may inquire about his spirit self and thus consult the revealed scriptures like Vedanta Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. But in spite of reading and hearing such scriptures, unless one is in touch with the realized spiritual master, he cannot actually realize the real nature of self, etc. And out of hundreds and thousands of men, someone may know what Lord Krishna is, in fact. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 20, text 122 and 123, it is said that Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, prepared the Vedic literatures in the incarnation of Vyasadeva for reading by the intelligent class of men in a human society which is almost totally forgetful of the genuine relation with Krishna. Even such an intelligent class of men may be forgetful in their relation with the Lord. The whole Bhakti Yoga process is therefore a revival of the lost relation. This revival is possible in the human form of life, which is obtained only out of the evolutionary cycle of 8,400,000 species of life. The intelligent class of human being must take a serious note of this opportunity. Not all human beings are intelligent, so the importance of human life is not always understood. Therefore, manishinam, meaning thoughtful, is particularly used here. A manishinam person, like Maharaj Pariksit, must therefore take to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and fully engage himself in devotional service, hearing, chanting, etc., of the holy name and pastimes of the Lord, which are all Hare Kathamrita. This action is especially recommended when one is preparing for death. Om Gyanati Virandasya, Gyana Ganashalakaya, Chakshu Umilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakandamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirveshesha Sunyavadi Paschatyadi Shatarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Siva Shari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. English translation again. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Maharaj Pariksit, as you've inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who was on the threshold of death, so I have answered you. Hare Krishna. So, Sri Shukadev Goswami is the spiritual master. Maharaj Pariksit is the obedient disciple, king, who is in fact on the threshold of death because he had been cursed to die in 7 days by an inexperienced Brahman boy with Brahminical powers. Shringi, Shamakrish's son, Shringi. But as we've heard earlier, you probably remember, the Lord was behind this whole plan. The major aim was to get Maharaj Pariksit to go back to Godhead, as we all are being trained and prepared in order to be able to go back to Godhead. This place that we're living is Krishna's cosmic jail. When there are troubles that we face, it shouldn't surprise us because once we understand that we are in jail, then jail is not a place to expect a wonderful, wonderful, everything working well lifestyle. This place is designed for happiness, material happiness, and distress for the non-devotee. For the devotee, is designed for us to be able to follow the path back to Godhead. So devotees and non-devotees both have a choice. Some are trying to remain here thinking that life is okay once we have opportunities for sense gratification. And sense gratification is in fact the aim of life's enjoyment. And the other part of life is that you work hard. But there are so many questions that come up and people don't understand. Yet they don't realize that there's higher knowledge and there's access to higher knowledge by everybody. It's just a matter of being greedy enough to want and to get to it. And so for Maharaj Pariksit, born of a very, very distinguished lineage to the Pandavas, he was the grandson and of the Pandavas, direct grandson of Arjuna. So he was fortunate to be born in that particular family. He was groomed to be king. He was an extremely effective king, pious when he had to be, punished when he had to do, all of that. Merciful when he had to be. And so, of course, at that time, we would expect that the population would be living a very decent life. The population will also be well trained in terms of what to do and what not to do. The Varnashram system was in effect. There were Brahmins, there were Kshatriyas, there were Vaishyas, there were Shudras, and the Brahmins were doing their duties, advising the Kshatriyas. The main Kshatriya was Maharaj Pariksit himself. Everything was being done properly. And then the different social classes were also, the different spiritual classes were also there. Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi, everything was in place. Even on this place called the earth, which is part of the material world. That goes to show that Krishna does not stop anyone from advancing spiritually wherever they are in the world, spiritual or material world. Hmm? Spiritual world is a given. They live life in service to the servants of a servant of a servant of a supreme personality of Godhead. That's a given. And they are absolutely happy at all times. But in this place, the material world was the jail, and Krishna has already said from Brahmaloka down to Patalaloka, all are places of suffering. Hmm? And it's like in mathematics, it's very easy to prove something that you want to prove. You just have to show one instance of that to arrive at that conclusion. Hmm? If we say there is suffering, well, if there's one instance of suffering, or let's just put it this way, if there's no suffering, then there shouldn't be, if you say this place is no suffering, there shouldn't be any instance of suffering at all, at any time. Then it's totally free of suffering. But if there's an instance of suffering even one time, then that place can be concluded to be, yeah, you can suffer, maybe not all the time, but some of the times there is suffering. And that's true in Brahmaloka. That is true in all of the planets below Brahmaloka. Only the spiritual planets have a total non-suffering situation. So this is not a place for the intelligent person to want to stay. So in this case, Maharaj Pariksit is being told, Shukadeva Goswami is saying, you've inquired for me as to the duty of the intelligent man on the threshold of death. And I've answered you. So they both have done their job so nicely. For us, we're benefiting from the conversation that they had. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes the situation. He's explaining in the purport
You're on mute, Prabhu.
all kinds of things are happening today. All right. So I'll go back to what I was talking about. The in the purport, first I said Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit. They had done their jobs to the best that could be done. Shukadeva Goswami was the spiritual master. He had answered the questions of Maharaj Pariksit, who is on the threshold of death. And he's asking the right questions because he's an intelligent person. And so in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that in this world, there are millions and billions of men and women, and actually at count now, we're close to 8 billion, 8,000 million people. Just the humans now, human beings. Other living entities too, they number even more than that. And Srila Prabhupada says, of all these billions of men and women, almost all of them are less intelligent because they don't really know who they are. They have very little knowledge of the spirit soul. The little knowledge that is known, at least from my own times, so earlier in my life when I was a non-devotee, a religionist, the soul was only mentioned when somebody died. Somebody died, they're hoping that the soul will go to heaven. So all of the while, nobody really knows what's happening to the soul, the nature of the soul, where it is, and what has happened earlier before the death time. It's only the death time comes and they say, oh, the soul is, hopefully, let's pray the soul goes to heaven. So Srila Prabhupada says, practically all of them have a wrong conception of life. And if you compare, now it's about almost 7.6 billion. 7,600, it's almost 8 billion. 7,600 compared to 2. There's a huge difference between the number 7,600, 7,600, and just 2. But that's the situation. In a little detail, 7,600 million people, that is close to 8 billion. Those are the human beings on the earth. And the devotees, 2 million. That's it. 2 million out of almost 8,000 million people. So very, very, very few people. And Srila Prabhupada said, when a person becomes a devotee, that is evidence that they are intelligent. Because a person that becomes a devotee, you read Bhagavad Gita right after Arjuna does his complaint about not wanting to fight, his reasons, and asks Krishna to be the spiritual master. This is all the first chapter. In the second chapter, immediately, anyone that reads it will understand who they really are. The soul is discussed in chapter 2. So when a person comes to Krishna consciousness, very early in the Bhagavad Gita, they understand who they are. We're not these bodies, we're souls. And if that statement was understood by the majority of people in this earth, that alone will cause so much peace to reign. Just like in many, many of the branches of ISKCON, when you go, you find people of different races. But they can get along because they understand that we are not these bodies. The races are based on the bodies. The culture is based on the bodies. The gender is based on the bodies. But these are all not us. We're not men, we're not women in the real sense of the word. We just have male and female bodies. But we are the spirit soul. Right in chapter 2, that's explained. And from that point on, things are revealed, different types of yoga, Kama Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and then in chapter 12, it ends the highest level of yoga, which is devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in love, Bhakti Yoga. Srila Prabhupada says, human society is people situated in high positions and low positions, but they don't know beyond the body and the mind. You will get some people who say, I am the body. You will get some people who say, I'm the mind. And so those who don't understand that these are false statements, they live life that way and they become total failures. So thousands and thousands of men are there, but very few inquire about the spirit and follow up to find out where the answers would be about the spirit. But one thing is clear, that if anyone asks that kind of question, who am I? Why is I suffering? Spirit, soul, what is it? As soon as that question comes up in the person's mind, Krishna arranges for the answers to come through devotees. One way or the other, the arrangement is made to get in touch with the revealed scriptures, which then guide the person. That is the mercy of the Lord. That is the mercy of the Lord. The precarious situation of the world now is solved simply by chanting the holy name and getting it out there for all living entities, including human beings, all living entities. When we chant out loud, all living entities who also have souls, they are actually souls in a different type of body, which is non-human, but the soul has senses. So the chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra out loud benefits all meaning not all men and women, all living entities. Therefore, we have to, we're charged to spread the holy name. Even if people don't understand what we're doing when we go on Harinam, and that's all right. There's some people that would, 3 kinds of people. You go on Harinam, you'll find 3 kinds of people. The best kind of people are the ones that will repeat the mantra and immediately feel happy. Anyone who's an undevotee that hears the holy name and repeats the mantra, immediately, look, we've seen videos of their face, they're immediately happy. They will even dance with devotees. Hmm? Then there's a second class of people who wondering what's going on. They're going to watch the devotees. But even if they stand to watch the devotees, some people will even video some of it with their cell phones. I've seen, videos of people who are doing that. A certain group of devotees who travel around the world, and they just all they do is hang out. Then people will just watch, and you can see in their faces they watch you wonder, and it's obvious that they're wondering, geez, life is such a struggle, but these people seem so happy. The holy name brings joy to the heart. And then there's a third group of people. They don't watch at all. They just keep going like nothing is happening. They don't care about what's going on. So the first group of people benefit the most. The ones who repeat the mantra and join the devotees, even if they don't understand what they're doing, but they repeat exactly as the devotees tell them to do, they do, and then they join in the dancing. They have a great time. Those are the best people and most likely to convert to Krishna consciousness. In time, they will. And of course, when we also give Krishna Prasada, that also does its work. Again, the time in which those people who take non-devotees take Krishna Prasada and turn to become devotees, that is in the hands of Krishna. But it will definitely happen. This has been explained. So hundreds and thousands of men are there. Only few may know what Krishna is. Now, how do they get to know Krishna? It's only through wanting to serve Krishna, beginning from the chanting of the holy name of the Lord and hearing, because the hearing is what reveals the scriptures. Hearing is what guides us. Hearing is what makes it possible for the Lord in our heart to put us in situations where we keep getting purified and purified and purified. So it's a two-pronged approach. We get put in situations for purification, and then we hear to get guidance also for purification. And it gets to a point where we're convinced that we are in the right place. And then we see the material energy, we don't pay too much attention to it. Things that we used to enjoy, we don't enjoy that anymore. Sense gratification, we don't get into it anymore. And sometimes my background, well, science is one, but music is also another background by the Lord's mercy. And sometimes it just crossed my mind, all these good musicians playing non-devotee type songs, songs that doesn't help the soul. And they're so talented. If they could only make some songs for the Lord, how much it would help their own souls. But they will sing about any and everything that is useless, that doesn't do much, and people enjoy it, and the sense gratification goes on like that. But the talent is being wasted. So the Lord, out of his causeless mercy, Srila Prabhupada is saying, has prepared the Vedic literatures. The Lord's incarnation is Vyasadeva. Prepared this. But it's for reading by the intelligent class of men. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada made a very important statement. And even though we are charged to understand what humility is and remain that way, humble, the fact is still there that devotees are the intelligent class of men and women. Because if you're in jail and you don't understand that you're in jail, you're going to try to make yourself happy in the jail, and it won't work. That's one. And you'll wonder why it doesn't work. But it won't work because this place is not designed that way. Those who know that this is jail, they're already intelligent. Because then when things happen that are surprising to non-devotees, it's not surprising to devotees. That's just the way it is here. As they say, it is what it is. But it is also there, and it's an uncomfortable place. So again, the intelligence kicks in. Why stay here? We have to get out. Then the question is, how do we get out? And as soon as we understand that way, that means we're ready to hear and do the things that we need to do in order to be able to get out. The great thing about it is this whole process of going back to Godhead is also tagged on to developing love of Godhead, happening at the same time. Developing love of Godhead. The Lord wants to relate to us in love. And so if we make Krishna Prema, and this is the devotee's aim, the devotee's aim is Krishna Prema, then going back to Godhead is automatic. We should concentrate on serving the Lord with our hearts. The wonderful way to serve the Lord is to start by serving the devotees. By serving the devotees. We start developing love of Godhead by learning to love devotees. So the best way is to make sure that devotees are cared for. Love means doing what it is for the happiness of the person that you care about. Simple definition. If we start with devotees, Krishna is very much affectionate to these devotees. So when we start doing service to devotees or for devotees, Krishna will automatically be happy with us and affectionate towards us because he's affectionate towards the ones that we are helping. So our aim should be to help devotees in every way possible. Words, deeds, different types of actions, thoughts, everything to serve devotees. In fact, the point should be that when we see an opportunity that has come for a devotee needing help, we should be the first one to jump in to help. We should be the first to jump in to help. And when we do that, then slowly, Krishna consciousness Krishna consciousness then will take on meaning for us in our whole lives. We'll become more and more and more convinced that we are in the right place. We'll be always, always, always looking to serve devotees first. The next level up is to develop love for the spiritual master. Some people serve spiritual master very nicely because they understand that he's a representative of Krishna. And we are to serve representative of Krishna because we have to serve him like we're serving Krishna himself. It's practice for us. But to connect with Krishna, the spiritual master from the heart begins from serving the devotees. We serve the devotees and we connect with them. Loving relation with devotees would give us the impetus and the means to love the spiritual master. Love of the spiritual master means whatever he tells us to do, we will do. He's bona fide. It is kind to make sure that the spiritual masters are bona fide, and if they're not, they won't be spiritual masters. That's not even in our hands to do. Lord Chaitanya makes sure, Lord Nityananda makes sure that happens. So that part we don't have to worry about. But we need to serve from our hearts to the devotees, then we can serve the spiritual master. And if quite a few times we've mentioned this, but we mentioned it today also. Sri Ramanujacharya, he was leaving his body. He had disciples. He was the spiritual master. The disciples were naturally morose because he was leaving the body. And this point that we talked about today was made by Ramanujacharya to his disciples. First, he congratulated them. He was very appreciative of the fact that he said, "You all have served me very nicely." And then he gave the first instruction to them. There were a number of instructions, but this one especially applies to us. He said, you serve each other with the same intensity and love that you have served me with. Serve each other the same way, with the same intention. It's when we come to that level that we begin to understand what spiritual life really is. The more we put ourselves out, literally go on a limb, take chances just to serve devotees, then our love for devotees will increase, and naturally, Krishna will be happy with us. Our love for spiritual master would increase, and Krishna Prema, we will begin to creep towards it. It starts with, as a matter of fact, even in Christianity, in the Bible, Lord Jesus Christ said this, as long as you have done this, the deed to the least of these, you've done it to me. As long as you've done it to the least of these, you have done it to me. The least of these people in terms of ranking and so on, you've done it to me. This is what Jesus meant. Jesus lived a Vaishnava life, no doubt about it. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj made sure that he told his disciple Srila Prabhupada that Jesus is to be regarded as a Shaktivesh avatar. He came here to lift people from what would be mode of passion and ignorance to the mode of goodness. Albeit that what he talked about was at the most of the times it's material level. Even though we can understand, if you become a devotee and look back in the Bible, you will see some truthisms that are hidden in there, implications that actually point out the fact that Jesus was describing in a Vaishnava point, what to do and what not to do. But for the most part, because people are at the level that they were at, not prepared to renounce the world to the extent that devotees renounce the world, then he taught at that level. One does not start with first graders and start teaching them high school things, even though it's possible that the person can teach at the university level. But if they're first graders in front of them, you're going to start talking about the ABCs. Not even high school things, not even middle school things. So he actually taught in that way. As long as you've done the least of these. So the devotees, the young devotees, the ones that just came in, we should serve them and make them feel comfortable. That's the only way they're going to stay. If we do not serve them nicely, how are they going to stay? They're going to say, oh, no, this is not a place where people are helpful, loving, compassionate, and then they're not humble. And that compassion is not there, humility is not going to be there. And it's replaced by what? Ego, false ego. And now things become difficult because people are unhappy and then they find ways, not to come around. Devotional service is extremely important for everybody to be a part of. Everybody that does any hearing and some chanting, even if they haven't gone to 16 rounds, many of us are not in 64 rounds, 16 rounds by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. They should also do some service. Don't wait to be given service. You go in a temple especially, look for what could be done and do it. Very, very, very simple. Even some of the simplest things. A little wiping here, the more menial the service that we take on, anyone takes on, the more purified the heart becomes. That's why in many of the dhams, when you go and become a temple devotee, usually the senior devotees will give you the first job, some sort of cleaning. In the kitchen, they'll say, clean the pots. And the devotees will tell you, it will clean your heart, that particular service. It is purifying. It is also a way to help us to be humble. You do that kind of service, you won't turn down too many other menial services. We shouldn't turn down any service at all. If we're not physically able to do, that's one thing. And even that, we have to do other services that we are physically able to do. We should keep hearing, and what we hear, to the extent that we can, we should share it. That way, then we talk among ourselves about Krishna. Machita Makata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Katayanta Samanityam Tushanticha Romanticha. That's what the pure devotees do. They talk about Krishna. One person may speak, the other people may listen. Like Maharaj Pariksit was listening, but so were so many sages and demigods who were there at the bank of the Ganga. They were also listening. Or sometimes there's discussion. Sometimes even a debate. And that brings about the understanding and then more scrutiny of the scriptures with a view to not just know to know, but with a view to know in order to live according to it. Devotional service is actually applied. Some subjects say, oh, there is theoretical physics, then there's applied physics. Applied physics is engineering. You take what you know and make something out of it. So applied, from hearing, we apply. Then Krishna consciousness takes on meaning then. So many things get revealed. The happier we become in our service, the more convinced we become that we are in the right place. But it comes from service. So nobody should go to a temple and just sit around and just do nothing. Yes, you can hear, that's true. But do more than that. Find a way to get yourself some service to do, or just ask the authorities, what can I do? Just come right out and ask. When you assign some duty, then take it like your action is action with your, it's your life and soul activity, because actually it is. It may not seem that way, but it is, because that service is what helps us get out of this material world and not take another body for another life. It is devotional service. On top of that, we understand Krishna better with devotion service. Why? Because he said it himself, Bhaktya Mama Vijanati. I am known, I reveal myself based on devotional service. So if anyone goes to the temple and they just simply sit around and other people are serving and they never ever take on any kind of service, they wouldn't get more of the benefit or spiritual credits compared to the person that is serving. Therefore, the more spiritual credits we get, the more we go back to Godhead, the chances of going back increases. Therefore, we should, all of us, do some sort of service. Whatever becomes available, do it. If not, ask the authorities to give you service to do. Stay with that service that's given. When Krishna realizes, because of our activities, that we are committed to service, that's when we become happy. He sweetens this whole bhakti process. The more committed we are. The less committed we are, then as my Guru Maharaj said, it's business as usual. Then we begin to live like, there's this other part of me that I go on Sundays, just like a church goer. Let's just go do the God thing and come home and do the same thing we've been doing. It should never be that way. The bottom line, though, is everybody should be chanting the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Whether we've taken a vow through initiation or not, everybody should be chanting. And that way, we are also preparing ourselves to leave, to go back to the spiritual world, just like Maharaj Pariksit was leaving to go back to the spiritual world. He knew that he had 7 days. We don't even know when the time will come. And this very, very, very wonderful knowledge for intelligent people. Very, very few people know this. Parishanam Sahasisu Kashidiyatati Sidaye. Apim, Sidanam, Kashimam Vititatvata. Out of many thousands of people, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved it, hardly one knows me in truth. How do you get to know Krishna in truth? By devotion service. And so it is very, very important. Yogis can't figure it out. Gyanis can't figure it out. But devotees who relate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, they get to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it is by devotional service. And if we slack in devotional service, then our life, even the material life, doesn't become so great. Even the material life gets affected. Because Krishna takes care of us. Krishna takes care of his devotees. Krishna doesn't take care of devotees' devotion only. He takes care of devotees, period. And if we don't take bhakti seriously, then we begin to feel it in our lives. Some things don't go well. He's already said, to the extent that we surrender to him, he rewards accordingly. The extent that we surrender, he rewards accordingly. He didn't say he rewards spiritually accordingly and doesn't reward materially accordingly. No, he just says he rewards accordingly. Our needs would be supplied by the Lord by just serving him. Not that we serve to ask for needs, but we serve and he already knows what we need. The physical body is actually his own design. The mind is his design. So Lord Vishnu, where all these things come to be. So what did he not know? We just have to surrender our hearts to the Lord. And he says, I get known by devotional service, then devotional service is priority. Bigger than any other thing that we ever think about or do. Bigger than any other thing we think about or do. And I mean our employment too. Devotional service is more important than employment responsibilities. Employment responsibilities are necessary just to keep the physical body going. And then what happens to the physical body? We die. That's all the reward you get for physical bodies, death. It slows down, it breaks down, it gives you problems, and then you die. This is life in this jail. But when we serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that spiritual credit never gets erased. Even when we take another body to come, that is still there. It's counted. And so the next life, the person is not starting from the beginning. The physical body may be the beginning, but the spiritual credits continue from where they left off. So in that case, Narada Muni is saying nobody loses. And nothing done for spiritual credits ever gets diminished. There's no loss or diminution. So the argument basically is, the conclusion is, why not? Why not? There's nothing better than devotion service. Nothing better than devotion service. Not even our jobs. So we need to understand that unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is. And that is why Maharaj Pariksit left the administration to his sons. And when he knew he was going to die, and he decided not to counteract the curse, then he left everything and he sat in the bank of the Ganges to dedicate his life fully to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when he thought that way, that's all he had to do. He didn't make arrangements. Can somebody get me Sukadeva Goswami? I'm getting ready to leave. But no, Krishna arranged for Sukadeva Goswami to come. And other sages too were there. So if we put our hearts to serve, connect with Krishna, he makes arrangements for that connection, for that service to happen in ways that we didn't even plan. Maharaj Pariksit did not plan for Sukadeva Goswami to come teach him. The Lord arranged that. And he will arrange it in everybody's life. All we have to do is Take devotion seriously. Less seriously, papajante, less seriously. Yeah, you will get your basic protection, but nothing out of the ordinary. And that's not good. We should be determined to be the best at serving Krishna. We should be determined to be the best at serving Krishna. Not brag about it, but be determined. It's a quiet determination. I'm going to do everything I can up to my last breath. There were some of our sannyasis, I'll say that's the last point, leaving the body. They preached and preached and preached until they almost lost their voice because, the senses are all breaking down. And even with that, practically whispering, they did one more class. So we had to listen very closely. Every inch of what the physical body could do, they used it in serving the Lord. Just like Maharaj Ambrish did, it's in Bhagavatam. All his limbs, all his senses for serving the Lord. We should be like that. Then we'll be happy. The happiness is when it comes that way. So Srila Prabhupada has guided us the right way. It's just a question of us being excited and enthusiastic about service. Then we'll be happy. Whenever the time comes for us to go, we'll be ready to go. Because Krishna is already happy with us. And Srimati Radharani is telling Krishna, send this person back to the spiritual world. That's the way our situation should be. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, devotees, for listening. Hare Krishna. So this is time now to unmute yourself if you want to make a comment or ask a question or share a realization. Hare Krishna Mother Gita, I see you raised your hand, albeit electronic hand. Except a humble obeisances, Lord Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept my humble obeisances, all praise to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for a thought-provoking lecture. And
Krishna's mercy.
we have heard so many times from Srila Prabhupada that our constitutional position is to be eternal servant of Krishna. So a servant means doing service. So thank you for stressing on the point of doing service, because that is our eternal position. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. It is not only our eternal position, it's our source of happiness too. It's our source of happiness. Try it. As they say, try it, you might like it. In devotion is try it, you will like it. You will like it. It's designed that way. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. Any other person wants to share any comment? Just unmute yourself. We are at the top of the hour now, but okay, this I think.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisance.
Okay.
So much to your Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
It's so interesting that this whole lecture of yours is so much based on service, because coming out of Chandramali Swami's class just now was also based on service and the attitude of service. So it is definitely something that we always need to be reminded. And sometimes, we might think, but this is the same old topic, the same old thing. I know it. Why hear it? I know it. Why hear it? And what we've been told is that it's being repeated because we're not listening. Because I was even talking to one devotee a few days ago that when we look at Prabhupada's transcription lectures, in different lectures, in all his lectures, many of the points are repeated, based, and the verses are different, but he addresses the same point in many of his lectures, and that's because to help us remember that, we need that reminder. And sometimes we might think, but I'm doing enough, or I am doing service. But for us to hear that, it's saying, okay, we should do more. We should do more. We should do more, because that is called bhakti, devotion. And Radharani is always doing 24/7, all kinds of services for Krishna, So I was just thinking that, we hear the same message every time is because we are supposed to listen. I mean, we are supposed to hear, to evaluate ourselves. What am I doing? Can I do more? Can I do more? And it's not like it's not like can I do more, is I should do more. And how can I do more? Because the mind will always say, no, you're doing enough. One day a week is good, No. How can I do more? It should be our consciousness, because that's what Prabhupada did. When Sri Prabhupada came to the to America, he didn't say I did enough, or can I? He just went out of his way. So I was just thinking how service should be, increasing, not decreasing, because that's what Sri Prabhupada, that's what we are taught by our seniors. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for such important points about service. The result of serving well is getting more service. We shouldn't be afraid of more service. More service means we're going to be happier. We're going to apply ourselves more. And speaking about applying ourselves, if some devotees don't know this, then today we're going to put it out there. When your body works better because it's younger, that's when you do as much service as you can do. It's going to get to a point where you may be able to speak, but the body won't be able to move so much. And the services that we used to do now will be restricted. It happens to everybody. Srila Prabhupada warned the devotees when he was on his deathbed and the devotees were very morose. Srila Prabhupada can't travel anymore. Srila Prabhupada is in Vrindavan now and he's not able to move so much. He's not eating. He told the devotees, don't think that what's happening to me will not happen to you. He warned. Therefore, this human form of life with that much intelligence, better than the other 8 million species that we have in this lifetime, when the body's parts still work well, is when we put in the effort. So when you come to Krishna consciousness and you understand and you're young, not that old, or just flat out young, and you begin to do very little service and the others just sit around, you're practically in Maya. Laziness and lack of compassion equals Maya. This is a statement by Akiketa Swami. Never be lazy when it comes to serving. You should feel unfortunate that you're not serving. But there'll be some point that you say, oh, now I want to serve. And the body's gotten too old and some things you want to do, you can't do. It will stop you. So this is the time when the body's working well to do as much as you can, staying steady with service. Your Papa said also one thing. Initiated devotees, finish your 16 rounds. Finish 16 rounds every day. Don't go to sleep without finishing the 16 rounds. We've taken a vow, and it's a vow actually it was infused with mercy because we're supposed to chant 4 times as many rounds. 4 times as many. And we're only doing 1/4 of what is required of us. He said, do not go to sleep until you finish your rounds. The morning is better. But whatever time of day, since Lord Chaitanya says there's no hard and fast rules, finish the rounds before you go to bed. Show Krishna that we're serious. Show Guru that we're serious. We have to be serious. That's all. That's how we get the mercy of the Lord through our efforts. Thank you very much. Amy? Okay, now we'll go to the chat because there's a couple of points in the chat. From Radhapat Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Well, that was yesterday. Okay, so we're not going to do that one. Yeah. One from Raja Gopi. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for this class. I have a question about going back to the spiritual world. You spoke a lot about how the spiritual world is like and the qualifications needed to reach there. My question is going back to the spiritual world the goal? Is it bona fide to hold Krishna Prema, the ultimate goal, over going back to the spiritual world? Although living in the spiritual is a huge relief from this material world, having Krishna Prema seems like a bigger ultimate relief that is eternal regardless of location, place, time. What is the correct understanding? First of all, these questions are all linked. There's a link to all of this. Krishna wants us to go back to the spiritual world even more than we ourselves want to go. That's one. Krishna operates based on love, prema. Love is exchanged between the lover and the beloved. The business of the spiritual world is all service based on love. Therefore, to go back to the spiritual world and to develop love for Krishna are tied together. Srila Prabhupada, and I heard this from Jayadvaita Swami, that he said devotees should aspire to go back to the spiritual world. That was said with the understanding that we shouldn't try to be comfortable here in the material world. We should look towards going to the spiritual world. That was said with the understanding that the material world is jail. And that was a mercy that Srila Prabhupada was giving us, because a pure devotee doesn't really care where they are. Mama Janmani Janmani Swari, Bhavatar Bhakti Ahoitikitwayi. Life after life after life. Let the bottom of my heart. That's Lord Chaitanya speaking. That's the highest. But because many of us get complications from material activities here in the material world, so by the mercy and compassion of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, he's saying, yeah, aspire to go back to the spiritual world. For that reason, aspire to go back to the spiritual world. We won't be able to do bhakti so nicely here, so we do the best that we can, put in the effort, and Krishna will give us mercy, and then pure devotion service at all times. Out of love, that will be done in the spiritual world. So Srila Prabhupada in another situation also links to this, says, whatever we've been given as the sadhana bhakti, bhakti by instruction, do your very best. Even if you're not 100% and you do 90% of it, that kind of effort would earn us an opportunity to go back to Godhead. And if not even that, 80%, even that would earn the mercy of a spiritual master. And then he turned around and said, even 70%. Now, why would he say 90 and 80 and 70? There's a reason for that. So a 70% person, they get the opportunity to go back to the spiritual world because the spiritual master, the initiating spiritual master, it is also possible for him or her to give some of his spiritual credits from doing service himself to the disciple. Even that arrangement is there. So even the spiritual master's own credits can help the devotee earn the mercy of the Lord to go back to Godhead. So we just have to put in a great effort, and that's what this has been about, service. Take advantage of whatever is available to serve, especially when you go to the temple. Be regular to the temple and also serve. So, yes, the spiritual world, he said, it's a huge relief from the material world. Having Krishna Prema seems like an ultimate relief. Yes. Yes. And it is eternal, and it is regardless of where we are. When Krishna loves us, he shows us material world, spiritual world. Right now, we have experience of being in the material world. But he will show us in so many ways. So many ways. If we have our hearts set on serving the devotees, serving Guru, and serving the deity, we'll see in our lives every time. We can have a long, people who know this, they can just tell you, like, they can write books and books and books about how in different situations Krishna gave them protection, Krishna gave them love. The exchanges with everyone. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has described it. So yes, they are all tied together. We should aspire, again, spiritual master's instruction. This is the Prabhupada's instruction. We should aspire to go to the spiritual world, but it is tied to developing love for Krishna. When you develop love for Krishna, then our bhakti becomes raganuga, from our heart. So that's love. But also, it gives us opportunity to go back to Godhead, because Krishna wants us to go back to Godhead. So whatever time that we spend here, keep using that and developing love for the Lord, serving the devotees of the Lord. That's the first step. Then we'll get to go home. So there is no correct understanding like that because they're all linked together. Krishna Prema, going back to Godhead, they're all linked together. Hare Krishna. Good question. Any other questions? If not, it's well after 9 o'clock now, so with your permission, we'd like to end the class. Thank you for coming to stay and listening through the class. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sunibhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, everybody. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.